Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're on Facebook Live, on our Zoom webinar, or if you're watching on YouTube after the fact. Welcome to our online info session for Ashton College's continuing education technology courses, the Microsoft Azure certification courses. Really excited to have you all here and to chat about these exciting new courses that we have. My name is CJ McGilvery. I'm part of the marketing and communications team at Ashton College, and I'm joined today by Rita, who's our information services coordinator. She's here to answer any questions you may have about admissions, fees, course start dates, anything like that. And I have George, who's the instructor for our Microsoft Azure certification courses. So welcome, George. Thanks for joining me.
Hello, thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Well, to get us started, why don't we chat just a little bit about your educational background and what brought you to teaching with Ashton College?
Okay, so if I go many years ago, I started my IT career maybe a little over 20 years ago as a programmer, and then I moved to system integration, to system administration, and after that I came back to software development for a little, and then starting from about 2005, my main focus has been security, and after, I want to say 2010 or 11, started to focus more on cloud technology. Between 2005 and 2011, I was working a lot with different virtualization technologies, so it was a natural transition in terms of the technologies from virtualization and security to cloud. So this is to answer first part of your question. Second part of your question is what brought me to teaching. Pretty much in the beginning of my IT career, I realized that I'm good at breaking down challenging complex topics to smaller pieces and really explaining it in a way users would understand. And throughout all my career, I was running a lot of training classes, creating some material, but they were mostly product-related materials. In the last 5 years, I am delivering and writing some of them security courses at different universities, colleges in Ontario and a university in Ontario. They mostly focusing on two things. Obviously cybersecurity, which is a hot topic and a topic that I'm very interested in. And second, newly courses that I have developed are focusing on cloud and security around the cloud.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I always love asking for a little background info just so our students can get to know you a little bit better and yeah, hear some of your background. It's wonderful. I also wanted to mention for any of the folks who are joining us, if you do have any questions at any point in the session, you can always comment on Facebook Live or on the Zoom webinar. You can just fill them out in the chat box or use the raise hand function, and we'll make sure that we address your questions either during the session or at the end when we do a bit of a Q&A. Just wanted to add that for everyone. So George, let's continue on with a little bit of context. So
sure.
Microsoft Azure, what does that mean?
It's a huge question.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so the easiest way to talk about Microsoft Azure, maybe not to talk about Microsoft Azure at all, but to talk about a broad concept of what is public cloud. And it depends who I'm talking to, because everybody has a different understanding of cloud. And this is actually, to kind of step back, I found something very interesting. Everyone I am talking to, and about any topic, IT-related topics mostly, or security-related topics, people would understand the same things differently and would have different ways to explain the same things. So a public cloud, let's imagine an area that hosts unlimited resources, and everyone can get access to these resources and use them without upfront investment, without too much architecture building around it, and also everyone who's using those services is going to be billed by the service. It's similar if you're thinking about your cell phone plan, right? When you're calling someone and you bill by a second, instead of buying first buying phone and then getting a plan with a payment. So it's a cloud. It has a similar idea. You paying only for what you're using, and as a result of it, you don't really need to invest a lot when you're starting, and you can grow slowly as your business grows, as you have more requirements. You can slowly grow. And there are three main vendors in this area. There are actually a little more, maybe 5 or 6 vendors, but 3 main vendors. First being Amazon AWS, second being Microsoft Azure, and third being Google GCP. I think Microsoft has a great benefit of having huge presence in the enterprise for decades. And the company is very smart in a way it approaches the integration of cloud technologies in current IT environment. Microsoft is using its connections and the products that have been already installed in organizations to make the connection an easier transition to the cloud. So I hope it answers your question, what's Microsoft Azure? But if we want a detailed explanation and detailed overview of Azure, it's going to take a few hours to explain.
For sure. It does answer my question. Absolutely. Just to give a little bit of context and foundation for some of the folks who are joining us, who may all be at different, experience levels with the technology. What I love, though, how you framed that with the primary providers, and you were talking about how Microsoft really has a legacy, being around for decades, and that is what they're building upon with their services. So I feel like that helps contextually. Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. This is something that if you looking from the client perspective, they already have great relationship with Microsoft.
Mm.
They already use Microsoft products for many years, and they're familiar with Microsoft licensing models and Microsoft introducing new products that are kind of cloud first, like Office 365, for example. So all of this is to help clients, or maybe to help Microsoft to get more clients transferred over to Microsoft Cloud, rather one of Microsoft competitors. Another interesting topic is Microsoft has a huge presence in the development world, like all .NET development area. When your development is also transferred over to the cloud from your standard servers and standard infrastructure, Microsoft has a significant advantage because all the systems, all the environments are owned by Microsoft.
So, and with that significant advantage, it sounds like this is a really key area where IT professionals would want to invest time and research and education in this area.
I think you're talking specifically about Microsoft or cloud? You're talking specifically about Azure?
I would say both.
Okay, so first, yes, if we're talking about both or all of the above, all cloud vendors, we can see a significant shift towards cloud, and we can see also that people who can operate it, they're not there yet. So we don't have, industry doesn't have enough people who know what the cloud is, how it works, and how to and how to run the business when business is migrating to the cloud. So this is only first part. The second part is that companies are looking for maybe people who will run the business in a better way, in a more modern way, when business has migrated to the cloud, whether it's a development application or security or connectivity or any other part of the business. So it creates a huge demand for cloud professionals. And if you do a search on any websites for Azure or AWS or any other cloud technologies, you will find thousands hits. So companies are really having challenge finding someone who will be capable of helping them to do the transition to the cloud, and after the transition to keep running the environment, to keep running the business while all the entire business has been transferred. The IT part of the business has been transferred to the cloud.
So would you say that there's a high demand for experts in cloud computing and continuing education in that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. Just any job search site and type Azure or type AWS, and you will see. Now, what you're going to see and what you have to pay attention to is what kind of jobs companies are looking for. So approximately 40–50% of the jobs with the keywords such as Azure, AWS are jobs in development area. So this is companies who are looking for programmers to keep developing code on in the code that is going to be in the cloud. The other part is all other people, because we still need people to configure the cloud, to secure it. Still need people to provision the software. So this is how all DevOps and DevSecOps fields have really started, because companies needed IT personnel with special skills to do the same things that they used to do before, but only to adopt them into the cloud space. But yeah, as I said, don't take my word for it. Just go Google, for anyone watching, just go Google on your preferred website, a job search website, go and run a search. And for those who have joined us, I really hope you have before joining us, because it would make more sense that you do your research of the market demand before joining such a session.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for speaking on that. Sure. Why don't we talk specifically about the courses, the certification courses that you're teaching at Ashton College. Could you talk maybe about the general structure of the course?
Well, yes, absolutely. So the general structure of the beginner's course. Let's focus for now on the beginner's course, because we also have advanced course on cloud computing. But the first step, which is extremely important, and it kind of takes me back to when we started, when I said everyone has different understanding of everything. Everyone has limited or different understanding of how the network works. Everyone has different understanding what cloud is, what are security controls. So the goal when I was creating Azure or AWS courses, the goal was to really take and bring everyone to the same level of understanding. What do you need to know in terms of basic skills? What you need to know how network works. You need to know how permission systems work. You need to know what cloud is. You need to know different cloud models. What is infrastructure as a service? What is platform as a service? What are the differences? What is the benefit of software as a service? So this is not really teaching teaching the core yet, but this is teaching around to make sure everybody has the same understanding of this conceptual understanding, right, of what we are trying to deliver. And then The next step of the training is about how do we take and help the students to gain a real experience, because the way I have created the course and what I had in mind is not taking theoretical knowledge and just transferring it over from one document to another, because honestly, you don't really need to register to a class for this. You can read the documents, you can maybe play with it. But my goal when I was designing these courses was to make sure that students at the end of the courses, they will have enough experience to at least pass the job interview. And with your permission, I wanna maybe spend 1 or 2 minutes
Sure.
maybe just reviewing the process, because I feel it's important, and it's important to understand how it works. So first, when someone submits a resume to a job position that has been published, what normally happens, and the larger the company is, the more chances it's going to happen exactly this way. There are automatic systems that are going to scan the file. You have to realize that large companies are receiving hundreds of thousands of resumes. Majority of them are not really a good fit for the job. So they have invested in automatic systems that would go and scan resume to find specific keywords, to analyze the submitted resumes. I think they call ATS systems, but I might be wrong on this. And these systems are going to analyze the resume and make a first decision. So this is the first step. Make the decision whether the resume goes to a recruiter or just, gets discarded. And this is the point where, for example, getting a certification could be a huge benefit. At this point, if your resume states certification, it has higher chances of getting to the next step. It doesn't guarantee it, because the systems are sophisticated enough. They would also look for the part that lists the experience and see how many times specific keywords that are required in a job description would be listed in this in the experience section. Now, and this is the first step. And for this first step, you don't necessarily even need training like we have developed, because you can literally read documentation, go on the website, have a free training on the website, and get the certification. The certifications originally were not designed for that, but many people are using them for that, to get kind of through the system to get the first interview. Now let's take the next step. The next step is a pre-screening interview, which means a recruiter is going to call you and go over your resume and your experience to see if you are a good fit to what the hiring manager is looking for. And I'm oversimplifying the process, but this is what it essentially looks like. Mm-hmm. Now, this is when you're going to benefit from taking this course, because if the recruiter is going to look through, again, same keywords, and will ask you, what do you know about serverless computing? So and this is one of the examples, this is one of hot topics that all cloud providers are talking about, and businesses are talking about. This is basically running a web application or a application without running underlying servers. So, and instead of saying, well, I know what serverless computing is, I'm expecting my students to say, okay, so what I did, I created a serverless application, web application, that was managing orders for a food place or for a taxi ride or whatever it is. And this is how I did it. I used this script language, or this is how I did it on top of Azure platform. So this is one step. This is going to help the students to pass to the next step, which is, let's assume it's a hiring manager, which is normally more technical and deeper. And then hiring manager will ask, okay, so you're saying you did something on serverless application. What did you do? What language did you use? Where are the resources? So the goal is for the students to speak from experience rather from knowledge acquired through learning or through reading. And I feel this is extremely important. And then there's going to be similar questions around, let's say, security. How do you secure your storage in the cloud? And then again, you can say, well, there are ways, or you can say, what I did was securing a file, because files are treated as objects and you can create. This can be only done through experience. You know, we're always talking about this loop that you can't get a job without experience, but you can get experience without getting a job. And this is catch-22 that a lot of new graduates are seeing in the job market, because, and it is correct, businesses don't really care if you need a job or not. They want someone who will hit the ground running as soon as possible. They might be able to provide you some training, but they're looking for someone who is confident and capable of doing things, and they don't want to spend time educating and providing you this experience. At the same time, when you're graduating from university or college, you don't really know a lot about the real world. You might know a lot about the courses that you passed, and you might have great marks, but realistically, you don't have any experience. So the course that we are offering is focusing exactly on that. It's focusing on giving you the experience, on forcing you to do things that you would use, well, forcing, maybe it's not the right word, but essentially, yes, it is forcing. You're gonna need to spend a lot of time practicing. So the result of your practicing and the result of the guidance in the course would be that you will be able to discuss things that you have done. You're gonna be able to base your interview on your own experience rather than theoretical knowledge.
I can hear such a clear distinction from you on that when you're saying even just the way an interview question would be answered. You know, I understand this conceptually versus here's exactly
Absolutely.
what I did in my experience, and here's
Absolutely.
how I can hit the ground running and replicate that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and this is very important just to realize it, because businesses are looking for someone who can start working immediately. They, again, even if they want to provide some additional training or bring you up to speed with because every environment is different, they would want someone who doesn't need to be trained from scratch.
And having a foundation and I guess huge flexibility in being able to learn things on the spot and adapt the skills and experience that you have. So for me, that paints a really clear picture of, you know, that question of why don't I just read a book about this? Why don't I just read a blog article? Why should I invest in a course? And what am I getting out of that? And I'm really hearing you addressing that it's the real world experience and practice that would help you in a job interview.
Absolutely. Plus, I want to tell you something. I know people who went and did it on their own. I know a lot of people in the industry who were working for 5-10 years as IT administrators, and they said, okay, it's time to move up. I want to make more money. I want to have a more interesting job. And they started to study, like self-paced study, and certifications, and most of them were able to move to different roles pretty fast after doing that. But that was true for people who know the basic, who have experience. And for them, the difference between what they used to do and what they're gonna be doing in the cloud is really very small. For someone who is shifting completely from another industry, or just graduated and didn't really, it is the basics that you need to understand, and also the kind of next step after the basics to be able to speak from experience, because you don't have any other experience. Those who do have, I think they will be okay doing it on their own. They really don't need it. If you have 10 years experience, IT experience, you probably don't need this course. Definitely not the basic course. If you want to go deeper into security controls, into data protection, you might want to consider our advanced course. But if you want this basic course and someone who has 5-10 years experience as a IT administrator or in IT industry in general, that's not the target. The target is people who have been working for a short period of time, maybe as help desk, or people who want to switch from one profile, one industry to another, and get a better understanding of what cloud has to offer.
So would this be a really good course for someone that maybe has never worked in IT, but they want to build their foundation, they want to make that leap into the industry?
Absolutely, but it all depends on also on your personality. It's, I mean, I can't say that someone who doesn't have this curiosity in him, who doesn't have any experience, who's not curious about IT, who's not curious about cloud, about technical side of things, is going to enjoy this course. I mean, obviously, you can teach anyone to do anything you want, but whether the person is going to enjoy and think he made the right decision after that, it's a good question, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, sounds like a personal answer per person.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely. It has to be something that you really want. We're gonna be here to kind of give you a little push, maybe, to help you to get started, give you a push, and help you to gain some first experience, which is, I can't really stress how important it is.
And when you talk about having that curiosity about IT, I'm hearing a lot of passion around that as well. And I'm curious for you, like, what makes you passionate about IT? Like, how did you get so interested in it? Why do you still have this curiosity to learn more?
Yeah, you're right. After 20-something years, I would expect me also to kind of lose it and say, well, my next day is going to be exactly my day before. So,
but I don't hear that from you at all.
No, and that again, that kind of goes back to personality. And one of the reasons I got into teaching, in addition to teaching, I'm also learning a lot. I enjoy learning. I'm trying to spend time analyzing data that I'm seeing, analyzing different approaches, different aspects of cloud, of cybersecurity, different techniques, different technologies. I just like it. I think personally, it makes hopefully our world a better place. Security makes our world a safer place. And me learning, and again, this is a matter of personality. I can't see myself not learning and not improving my skills, not improving my knowledge, because this is something that I enjoy. Some people enjoy watching Netflix. Others enjoy reading books. I enjoy learning new material, new technology, and teaching it after that.
I love that. And honestly, I've heard that reflected from a lot of the faculty members that we have in our continuing education department. It just makes sense. If you're interested in teaching continuing education, you're going to have that quality of wanting to be a lifelong learner for yourself. And one of the questions that I've asked some of our other faculty members is, why do you think continuing education is important for just an everyday person in their workplace?
Well, I'm wondering, what did they answer you? What was the answer? I think continuous education is something that, again, it will get you to the point, at least continuing education that I'm developing. I'm not sure. I know all the courses that Ashton College is offering. But when I'm looking at continuous education, my goal is to give you the experience you need for working. Continuous education, rather than academic education, right? That is normally focusing on maybe academic research, or normally it is a longer path. So it takes a few years, but you're hopefully getting a solid background, you're getting solid theoretical knowledge. Continuous education is mostly about practical knowledge. And it's mostly focusing on how do you get your first job, or how do you get your second job, or how do you get the job that you want and you were not able to get it before that? How do you get the skills that are relevant to the job market? This is what continuous education for me at least.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And everyone had such wonderfully different answers, which is why I was curious for your perspective on it.
Okay,
So thank you. Why don't we chat a little bit more about the course itself? We talked about the structure of the course.
Mm-hmm.
I was reviewing some of the learning and course objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we talk a little bit about understanding network, storage, and application security? That's one of the course objectives listed.
Right. So what do you want to know?
What does it mean to understand network, storage, and application security?
Okay. So let's take storage. Storage is where we store our files, our data. Now, the level of security, let's imagine for a second that a company is storing all the data, all company's data is being stored in the cloud. So essentially, it is being stored on a gigantic file server that has different interfaces. So you can access the files using command line interface. You can access the files programmatically using an API. You can access it from the web using web interface, like literally like the way you log into your Gmail, Google Drive, or Dropbox accounts. Now, the interesting part about it is that as a business, as an organization, I don't really want everyone to have access to all my data. So I need to understand, how do I classify data? What kind of controls can I apply to the data? So people from my organization will have one level of access. People from organizations outside of my organization, but still partners, will have different. My customers will have another access, and everyone else will just be able to view a limited number of files or documents that I'm publishing for everyone. And not only that, my goal is to manage access to my information. So this is in the traditional IT world, this is easy because, well, not easy, but easier, because we have premises. So we have walls around our data center, and what's inside this wall is ours, is our files, is our data, and everybody who wants to come in, we will have to exclusively allow him to get in. Cloud, by definition, by its nature, is publicly available space. So cloud is available all the time for everyone. This is one of the benefits of the cloud. However, because we're losing this walls of ours, and we only have one control, really, is the identity. We only have credentials to manage access to our files, to our objects. And this is, if we're talking about storage, this is a huge challenge. Users make mistakes. We need controls to stop users from making mistakes. Some users are malicious, some users are negligent. So we need to make sure that whatever information we're storing in the cloud is available only to people who's supposed to get access to this information. But it needs to be available. So one step back, in security world, we are talking about CIA Triad. CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This is the same idea that is applicable to cloud storage. We need the data to become confidential, sorry. We need to preserve the integrity, and we need to make sure it's always available. The availability part, cloud takes care of this, because all the high availability parts and the load distribution is taken care of by the cloud vendor. However, the integrity and the confidentiality of the data is something that we really need to place control around it, so nobody who's not supposed to have access will have access to it. In terms of network access, same thing. We want certain people, or not certain people, we want certain applications to be exposed, or certain services to be exposed to the outside world, others to be only internal. We want to place restrictions based on network communication. So this is, the course is going to go through how exactly we deliver on this, how exactly we deliver that only web application is available to the internet, and the database that is connected to the same web application is only available to internal resources.
I think that's super clear. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm actually curious too, just hearing you talk about sort of the double-edged sword that is cloud technology. We have increased accessibility because you can, anywhere, any computer, anywhere, you can access your organization's network. Would you say that it's also increased risks around confidentiality? Is that something that affects the demand for security professionals as
Yes.
compared to traditional IT or traditional data storage?
So here's the way I see it, okay? If you having challenges, security challenges, if you're having challenges placing appropriate controls around your data while you're running inside on premises and you're migrating to the cloud, you're shifting and you're shipping all the same old problems to the cloud. Now you have even less controls. So yes, cloud by nature. Let me give you an example. Ashton College has an office with all the servers and all the computers running. I'm assuming some of it in the cloud, some of it local. There is a front desk, right? So not everyone can enter to the college, and definitely not everyone is entering the service room, for example. So this is something that Ashton College implements as physical security measures, right? Mm-hmm. In the cloud, the physical security measures are taken care of by your vendor, by Amazon, by Microsoft, by whoever is running the cloud. And therefore, there is a shared responsibility model. There's some security responsibility that you can completely forget about. So again, taking Ashton College as an example, now when all your servers are shipped over to the cloud, you don't really need a security guard at the front. I mean, you might need, but not for, for if you're concerned about, if the only concern you have is data being compromised or being stolen. So if everything is in the cloud, now it becomes cloud vendor headache, right? Mm-hmm. Also availability. You don't think about, oh, my hard drive has failed, or motherboard on my server has crashed and now I don't have access to my data. This is nothing, it doesn't concern you really. Your concerns are still around your data because your cloud vendor is going to provide you some level of security by protecting the hardware, by providing you hardware, providing you physical security, CCTV cameras in his data centers, high availability network, all of that is going to be provided by your cloud vendor. Data security still needs to be provided by Ashton College because nobody knows what kind of documents Ashton College wants to publish on the internet or stream on Facebook or do other things. So this is something that is, in my opinion, important to understand. What is the difference between the responsibilities that a cloud vendor has and the responsibilities still that companies have?
Yeah, it's a very clear distinction as you frame it that way. And I think it's interesting too, the way you say that if an organization has security issues without a cloud service or without a cloud vendor, and then they migrate, the same security issues are going to come with them.
Absolutely. Same issues, not just security, same IT issues. If you properly planning your IT infrastructure, by shipping it to the cloud, you're just taking the very same challenges and you're shipping them to somebody else, hoping that this somebody else who doesn't know your business, who doesn't understand your challenges, will solve them for you. If cloud is not properly implemented, and if the planning side is not properly done, unfortunately, it could end up costing more and bring even more security challenges to the business than it was in the old, let's call it the old IT world.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of trends and organizations moving from, as you say, the old IT world into cloud computing, is that something that you see continually building in the future? Are we going to have more organizations relying on cloud vendors?
I'm looking at organizations and vendors, and I'm looking at the trend. It's a clear trend. It's called cloud first. So when organizations are evaluating technology, they're looking first at the technology that is offered through cloud. And the reason for this is very simple. The deployment and integration of this technology takes less time. The risk associated with failed integration is significantly lower. So organizations would like to know how much it would cost them, but they would really prefer to start with the cloud, and only if there is no options in the cloud, or only if on-premises options are way cheaper, organizations will select the on-premises.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? You said that the risk of failed integration is lower with a cloud vendor than without?
Yes, so most of the cloud solutions, most of the cloud systems, they come ready for the integration. The way they've been designed is that it is easy to connect through some sort of application interfaces, and a cloud system by itself is maybe not, and I'm not only talking about cloud, I'm talking about software as a service, other cloud models. The cloud system by itself is could be great, but it's not complete if you cannot connect other cloud systems to it. Because when in the traditional IT world, when we had applications or software systems that were running on computers, integrating them means that either somebody needs to create a special integration code or create a script that is going to do. So integrating them was always a challenge, and some software products could simply not be integrated. In the cloud, the integration part is way easier because it is more, everybody uses the same standards. Everybody uses the same standards when, not everybody, but many companies, many vendors are using same standards to allow the functionality being used from third-party systems.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I learned something new. That's fantastic.
You're welcome.
I have another question about the course description.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the note was identifying resource groups and learning to analyze resource utilization. So for someone like me without an IT background, could you describe that a little bit?
Let me give you an example. Again, I'll use Ashton College as an example, if you don't mind. And college has a website. This website, I'm assuming, is executed on top of number of servers. So there are a few web servers that are all grouped together as a single virtual resource. And when someone is connecting to this website, he's going through a system that is called a load balancer. Basically, it is a load distributor. So what it does, it takes first user, sends it to server number 1, takes the second user, sends it to server number 2, third user, server number 3, fourth user goes to server number 1 again. And this is the way the load is equally distributed between number of services. Now, these services can be created as a resource group. But right now this example is just about servers. We have different objects that could be grouped together and deployed and managed as a group. Because if I have 10,000 servers, not 10,000, maybe a stretch, but if Ashton College has 10 servers, managing each server by itself, it could take longer. Also, imagine if you have a resource group, if you have a group of resources and you're running out of capacity, wouldn't you like to have an automatic way to add more capacity as soon as you recognize that you're running out of capacity? So this is exactly the resource group management and the load distribution and monitoring, all this in kind of one package. Imagine that courses offered by Ashton College are so popular that it is overwhelming all your servers. Now, in this case, what the automation part of the cloud would do, of resource management, first part will identify that, okay, these 5 servers or 3 servers are running low on resources, so let's create a new virtual server and we'll join them to the same resource group. And this would be, now we're running instead of the same load is distributed between 4 servers instead of being distributed between 3 servers. So each server has lower resource consumption, and as a result of it, each server is able to respond faster to the users. And we can, we can scale it up. It's it is called there is scaling up or scaling out. So scaling up is taking a resource and adding more CPU, adding more memory, adding more disk space. Scaling out in the world of load balancing is simply adding more servers and sort of load distributor in front of the servers, so users will the user's load is going to be distributed across multiple servers.
What I hear from you on that subject of resource utilization is it sounds like it's all coming back to efficiency with how resources are being used, and then also when we talk about all the benefits of cloud computing and why organizations are moving toward that trend. We were talking about reducing costs, increasing success with integration, and then also resource management. It sounds like it's all coming back to efficiency for organizations.
Absolutely. Efficiency, reducing cost and efficiency, they're twins. Because when you're talking about cost reduction in the cloud, I mean, the easiest way would be for Ashton College, let's say with 3 servers running on a web server, to run always 10 servers. But the cost of running 10 servers is significantly higher. That is why, and in the traditional IT, it is way more challenging. It was almost impossible until private clouds started to kind of show up with virtualization. I want to say it was early 2000s, maybe 2005.
Okay.
In the world of virtualization, when companies started to provision systems, it's called provisioning on demand, or there are different terms, commercial terms mostly. But the idea was, okay, let's start with something that is small, that is bare minimum of what we need. We will monitor the performance of the systems that we have created and provisioned. And the moment we need more, we'll just provision additional one once we need more. And in the cloud has been built for this, has been designed for this from the beginning. Provisioning of resources is done in a way that end user never feels it. As an end user of Netflix, you never know how many servers are actually running in the background to stream your movie, right? And that's
absolutely.
That's the beauty of the cloud. You never know what's running in the background. Or as a user of Gmail, you don't know how many mail servers. All you know is that you have a web interface. And that is the beauty of the cloud. That is what cloud allows us to do, and the traditional IT world wasn't capable of doing.
And I suppose from the end user perspective, we never know the intricate details of how the program is running. What we know is this reliable or is this not reliable? Can I count on it? Is my movie going to buffer when I want to watch it? Those are the great annoyances, right? And I can see how, cloud computing and just being able to be efficient and reliable for organizations, that's going to be priceless for them with customer loyalty.
Yeah, but let's take it maybe to the edge. So
sure.
Your Netflix is buffering. It's annoying, right? But what if you're in a stock market? What if you're a trader in a stock market and you're not counting it by minutes or even by seconds? I mean, we used to count it by minutes. Okay, buffer is 1 minute, so we can. Now, if the buffer is more than 10 seconds, it's what's wrong? I'm gonna my internet provider. I'm gonna call and yell at Netflix, or I don't know if we can yell at YouTube to yell at. But let's take it to the edge. Let's think about traders. They trading in stocks. They trading in a lot of money, and every millisecond counts there. So the cloud has been able to provide the level of performance that they can rely on, which is opinion, this is way more interesting and challenging than, with all respect to your Netflix habits or YouTube habits, that streaming or delay in YouTube and Netflix. So yes, absolutely. Another thing that people maybe don't realize when we're talking about cloud, we're talking about multinational system with data centers across the globe. So when you're watching a Netflix movie that was, I don't know, originally has been created somewhere and posted on Netflix servers in United States, what you don't know is when you're watching it from Vancouver, I'm assuming, British Columbia, you are not going to the source of the movie. You are going to the close location where the movie is stored, prepared for you. Because if you're watching it and somebody else is watching after you, there is no reason to stream all this movie, the entire movie, from its original location again to Vancouver. But it makes sense to store it temporarily for maybe a day or two to see if other users will be interested in viewing this movie. So the way content, it's called a content distribution network. The way content distribution network works, first user that requests a content, whether it's file, a link, a movie, or whatever it might be, it is getting to the closest, it is temporarily stored at the location that is closest to this user. Other users will not have to go to the center, to the original location of this content. Instead, they would get to this closest location. And this is the way the content is distributed across the world.
It's fascinating. Yeah, and I love that we have, a very low stakes example of, oh no, my video is not playing. Very high stakes example of, okay, there's millions of dollars on the table.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to cut a deal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing just how prevalent cloud computing is in all these various aspects of life and business and entertainment and all over the place. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear more about. Thank you. So we have about 5 minutes left in our session, and I know you and I could talk for hours about cloud computing, but why don't we talk just a little bit more specifically about the course? I'm curious, what do you think students will enjoy most about the basic or advanced Azure course that you teach?
I think, well, and again, let's stick to the basic, because advanced is a very different course.
Sure.
It is way more demanding than the basics, but it also expects students to know a lot more. So there are prerequisites for the advanced course, but the basic, I think students will be confident as they go through the course. So every little detail that they were maybe missing, or every detail that they needed to know to be successful, they will get it. Also, what I find a lot of time with my students is that they really enjoy the way the classes are running. The atmosphere in the classes is pretty relaxed, and mostly the classes are about sharing ideas. At some point, I mean, you must have ideas to share, but it's a very collaborative environment in my classes for the most part. And again, depends on the personality. There is a lot of effort from the students that is going to be required after the classes. So once we're going to start the actual practicing actual topics of the course, the next day we are going to look at what mistakes were made, what students were unable to perform, and fix the errors. So the goal would be to make sure that everybody understands what has been done, why it has been done, and again, through the experience or through practicing, they will gain experience that will help them, pre-screening interview, technical interview, and final interviews.
It sounds like there's a huge emphasis on practicality and building up that experience. And I also love that you touched on building confidence for the students as they go through the course, and that is going to make them feel really good and assertive and confident as they move into the job interviews in the industry. So thank you. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'll just check in with Rika. Do we have any questions on deck from Facebook Live or from the Zoom webinar?
There, guys. I guess the question that we have right now is mostly catered toward the course in itself. The question is there a minimum number of requirements for attendance, or does the student have access to the recording for self-study purposes after the webinar? Go ahead.
I think I can answer the second part.
Okay.
Sure.
The second part is yes, we're gonna post the recording, and students will have access to the recording of the webinar to make sure they can really review the course and maybe not even the day after, but maybe a few months later. As far as the minimum students, yes, we do need minimum students. However, this is something that maybe CJ can answer. I don't know about a specific numbers.
Sure, I was hearing a little bit from that question. We've had students ask before, is it okay if I miss a class? Can I come to the next class? Will I fail the course if I miss one or two classes, if I have a work commitment or something like that? So, what I've heard from you on kind of the level of collaboration, it seems like it's very important to be at as many classes as possible. But, you have reflected that the webinars will be accessible after the fact. So
I don't really want students to watch recordings, because what it means that they will not participate actively in the class during that session. And I want everybody to participate and to, if we're brainstorming, if we have an activity, I want everyone to participate. However, life has its own rules, and if someone for some reason cannot be in class, the recording is going to be available. But I believe the question was about the number of students that we need, the minimum number of students that we need to open a course at all.
So for that question, we can always refer that. They can reach out via email. Or Rika, I don't know if you want to jump in there.
Oh yeah, sorry. You actually got the question correct, CJ. Like, I guess the question was mostly like if they will fail if they do not meet a certain number of attendance. So, well, good to know that regardless, it's just really the amount of engagement or the participation is really imperative in order to get the best out of this course. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the question actually touches on a really important aspect of all our continuing education courses, that it is a live online class. So it's different than purely pre-recorded material where you watch it on your own time. There's going to be that, constant connection and communication and participation with the instructor, which I think is one of the huge perks of taking a course like this, and certainly getting to, participate with you, George, and hear your insight on the subject and experiment and experience the trial and error of learning the subject matter. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we are just about out of time. Thank you so much, George, for being in this session with us today and for sharing your insight on the course. I'm, really excited for all of the students who are going to be able to learn from you on this subject. And I wish you just, all the best as you teach the course. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and everyone enjoy the rest of your evening.
Absolutely. And folks, if you're on Facebook Live, Zoom webinar, or if you're watching on YouTube, if you have any more questions, you can always reach out to us via email, ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca, or you can give us a call at 604-891-1256, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.